Hi, my name's Keith Cooper, and in this video I'm talking about some business aspects of photography, in particular product photography, small product photography, because I'm often asked, how much should I charge for my product photography? Because, you know, it's quite easy to do. Well, at one level, yes, basic product photography really is not that difficult. In fact, I happily will teach companies, small businesses here in the UK, some large ones as well, how to do basic product photography, because they've found that they've got benefits in doing it themselves. But what about as a photographer? You think, well, you know, a client you might have for something else, or someone you know has asked you to do some product photography. Simple setup. This is going to be the simplest product photography setup. I've got a light here. This is the Siri LED light. I've got this covered in, I've done a short review about using this light, but it's a very simple light to use. I have adjusted the level, I can adjust the color temperature as well. It's shining here. I have just a simple sheet of paper against the wall to give me a background, and here's something I'm going to photograph. Now in this instance happens to be a Rigetti tripod head, but it just whatever, I picked it up. You would normally perhaps use a more complex setup. You might have a reflector here to fill in some of the shadows on this side, and I'd prefer to use two light sources so I can adjust them, and I'd probably prefer to use a softbox rather than just this basic reflector here. But yeah, this is a basic product photography setup, and this will actually give perfectly good results with a reflector for an awful lot of basic photography, and it's the sort of thing I show people how to use for Etsy shops and things like that. But what about photography, product photography as a business? Well, the difficulty a lot of people have is that they don't truly cost their time. You need to allow quite a while for setting everything up, experimenting with your camera angles and things like that to get the setup correct. Now, that setup may need striking down and resetting for every different type of product. If you're going to do both, you have to allow for that. People don't tend to allow for the amount of time in setup. You need to explore how you're going to process the images, how you're going to do all of that sort of stuff. Now, that will vary to some extent on almost every shoot. Certainly if you're setting up on location or something like that. If you've got somewhere you can set up for your product photography, then that makes it easier to do. But even then, there is a setup time. So the standard way of approaching product photography is to do a cost per item. Now, a Google search will help you find product photography prices in your location. They vary by region considerably. So I won't give any examples of prices or what it would be here in the UK. Suffice to say that if you want one item photographing, you're going to pay a lot more, because that includes my setup time and everything like that, than you are for 5 items. Well, you're going to pay a bit less for 5 items. If it's 20 items, then the price comes down a little bit more as well. Do a search on this and look at people's product photography rates. Don't necessarily look at the exact prices they're asking. Look at how they structure their prices. Look at how they decide what you get for the different amounts of money. Now, there is there's quite a few sort of gotchas in this that you can forget about. I mentioned setup. People always forget how long it can take to get the setup right. But the important thing is, once you've got that set up right, it massively speeds up everything else, because you don't need to worry about your lighting. You take your product, take a photo, move it if need be, take another photo, do what you like, and do things like that. So, what's the next bit people forget about? It's having a workflow. Now, a workflow is the process you go through from getting the item here. If it's in a package, you've got to allow for the time of taking it out of the package. Assembly or some adjustment may be needed. You've then got to set it up. You've then got to dismantle it or repack it, and you've got to put that package away. How many packages can you handle in the area where you're doing the photography? I've done product photography jobs where we have photographed thousands of items. Now, the important bit about the workflow there was having multiple people working on the process. I was doing the photography, Karen was managing the shots, checking that they were okay on an attached laptop. Somebody else from the company had a laptop with all their various spreadsheets and databases with all their product codes and everything on, so that the shot numbers could be matched up to the product codes. Once you do more than a dozen items, numbers that you get attached to things, product codes, very quickly mean nothing and are very easy to transpose digits and make mistakes, so the pictures become wrong. And if the products look the same to you, how are you going to notice it? I've spent a week photographing packs of paper. It was tedious. Oh, that's the other thing you need to allow for. Product photography, occasionally, which is one of the reasons we do it, specialist product photography, is fascinating. I do specialist macro photography. I do all kinds of things. I tend to look at these as one-offs. I very rarely do jobs where I've got more than 30 or 40 items. If you want me to photograph hundreds of items, then it's going to cost. It's got to be somewhat interesting for me as well, because when it comes down to it, you need to keep your attention going, and getting bored doing something is not conducive to a consistent good quality. Extras, when you actually quote for work, and do make sure you quote for work fully before you start doing anything and get it agreed by the client. Do that, make sure that all the paperwork is sorted out and agreed before you even get the camera out of the bag. That's important. But extras, cutouts. Are you going to do cutouts? Cutouts are quite tedious but precise work. You might want to investigate outsourcing such stuff. You might want to do it yourself. Don't do it for nothing. Make sure you charge for it. Look at all aspects of your workflow. If you need someone there with you, they've got to be paid as well. So you've got to work all of this stuff too. So the gist of it is, yes, product photography is quite easy. The costings, you can find people's costings, but don't try and undercut people on price. There is a good reason people charge as much as they do for good quality product photography, and that's because it's consistent and it's high quality. Now, if you want to get into the market, do a lot more research than just this. Have a look at prices, have a look at how people's business models vary in the region you're in. Anyway, I hope that's of some interest. I've got lots more business of photography videos that I've produced and ones that I'm looking to do. If you've got any questions, please ask. It's questions from people that often give me ideas for subjects for videos. So thanks for watching. Oh, and please subscribe to the channel.